tracked 129 Michael Jordan playoff games to help compare him to some of the all-time greats that have played since. How good were the Bulls when Jordan was on the court? How good were they when he went to the bench? What happened to his supporting cast during the Phil Jackson years? And how does MJ compare to LeBron, Shaq, Curry, and others in the plus-minus stats that we've had since 1997. YouTube, what it do, man? It's your boy Groovy tapping in with y'all boys, man. Welcome back to another vid, man. Salute to my OGs, salute to my young boys that's watching the vid today. Got another banger for y'all, man. In today's video, we are watching a video titled, I Tracked Every Michael Jordan Playoff Game for a Decade. Now, we all know the greats show up in playoff time, man, when it really matters. And one of the reasons why we call MJ the GOAT is because he performs at the highest level. It's a lot of niggas that know how to hoop, but when the moments start to rise, they games start to fall off. You know what I'm saying? A lot of niggas ain't really made for those type of moments. A lot of niggas ain't clutch like that. A lot of niggas ain't got ice in their veins. You feel what I'm saying? Like the video. Comment down below, man, any videos y'all want me to react to next. And last but not least, subscribe, man.
So we all know that Michael Jordan was an incredible basketball player. For many people, he's the undisputed GOAT. And in the Thinking Basketball Greatest Peak series, our Patreon community voted him #1. But one topic that always comes up with MJ is his teammate quality. In 1994, Jordan retired, and without him, the Bulls won a hefty 55 games and played the Eastern champion Knicks to a near draw, leading some people to think he might have been playing with a stacked deck. Others think those championships were all about Jordan because he finally embraced the team game in 1991 under the Zen master Phil Jackson. To help answer this question, we went back and tracked 129 Michael Jordan playoff games to compare MJ and his teammates to what we've learned over the last quarter century.
Okay.
As we've discussed many times, there's no easy way to measure how good an NBA player is. We use basic stats like points per game or shooting efficiencies in conjunction with more advanced ones like how much a player improved his teammate shot quality, but there's no silver bullet. What most of us are really trying to figure out is how much a player helps his team win, how much his presence impacts the scoreboard. And that's where one particular stat is always worth knowing, even if it isn't perfect itself. I'm talking about plus minus. And playoff plus minus has only been tracked since the 1996-97 season, which means we have no information on those early Jordan teams.
Damn.
Well, until now. For instance, in 1988, a fourth-year Jordan won his first MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year in the regular season, while carrying the likes of Charles Oakley and Dave Corzine to 50 wins. The Bulls played 10 postseason games that year, defeating the Cavs in 5 before bowing out to the Pistons. And in that 10-game stretch, Chicago was outscored by about 4 points every 48 minutes Jordan was on the court. When he went to the bench, they were outscored by 8 points per 48, which is about a 4-point difference. As longtime Thinking Basketball followers know, 10 games is a really small sample, especially since Jordan only went to the bench for about 50 minutes during those playoffs. That means a few extra makes or misses would have a huge impact on those minutes that Jordan was off the floor. So to understand how Chicago performed without MJ, we really need to look at more games. In 1989, Jordan hit the shot over Craig Elo, and the Bulls upset the Cleveland Cavaliers, then took out the Knicks before running into the Pistons again. This time, Jordan's on-off looked very different. The Bulls outscored their opponents by 4 points every 48 minutes he was on the court, but were outscored by nearly 20 points per 48 when he was off the court.
So they need
that
him
gives
to play.
us 27 total games now, but it's still a noisy sample. So we went ahead and collected the 1990 playoffs and the 91 playoffs and so on. After sifting through over 100 Bulls playoff games, we found some incredible gems, including a ringing endorsement for the channel,
thinking basketball every day,
and this incredible quote about not wanting to excel as a three-point shooter.
Three-point shooting is something that I don't want to excel at. And when you have that mentality, as I found out in the first game, of making threes, you don't go to the hole as much. You go to the three-point line and you start sitting there waiting for someone to find you. And that's not my mentality. And I don't want to create that because it takes away from my other parts of my game.
Michael was talking about threes because he made 6 of them in the first half of Game 1 against Portland back in the '92 finals, propelling him to 35 points before halftime on just 21 shots. Before that night, Jordan had made at least 5 threes in a game just once in his entire career, and he knocked down a half dozen before halftime. Thanks to the shrug, that legendary performance is still talked about 30 years later, but I don't think I've seen anyone mention what happened next in Game 2. Those three-point shots were only half the story to Game 1 because Jordan was just as unstoppable from inside the arc, drilling 8 of his 12 two-point shots. Poor Clyde Drexler was left in single coverage most of the time, and if it wasn't the patented fadeaway that did him in, Jordan used his quickness to drive by Clyde into space and then float in mid-range pillows.
Good shot.
In pick and roll, the Blazers sent a second defender to jump Michael, but Jordan shed him for more mid-range magic.
Counter move.
So when Game 2 rolled around, the Blazers radically changed their defensive strategy, first by doubling him in the post so he couldn't feast on fadeaways down there, and then bringing extra defenders when possible to help on his drives. And these adjustments did make a difference, leading to some turnovers and some easy scores for Portland. But they also put Jordan in a position to set up his teammates for wide open shots.
Yeah.
So his most prolific three-point shooting game in the playoffs led to one of his most prolific playmaking games in the playoffs, setting up open shot after wide open shot for his teammates throughout the night. Of course, even when they sent help, Jordan's individual scoring brilliance was still on display. There are 3 Blazers lurking here, and this time he spins away from the help, and that's just insanity.
Good God, off the
Since
glass?
he finished with 39 points, Jordan's scoring pressure also created a ton of shots for teammates himself. Here's one in transition where he crosses right, hangs in the air, and kicks it out for an open 3. And he actually looked back to the trailer to freeze the defense before snapping it to the corner for that jumper.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, man. It's just Jordan's presence on the court, bro. Like, anytime Jordan has the ball, bro, help side, all the defenders' eyes are on MJ, bro. And when you have a superstar like that on your team, that creates other shots for your teammates. You know what I'm saying, man? And when you have an unselfish superstar like Jordan was, I mean, obviously Jordan was a scorer. He would rather score than, facilitate and pass the ball. But playoff basketball, when it matters, high IQ plays, make smart plays, willing to pass, knowing he has shooters on his team, bro, Jordan gonna get you the ball. This is all high IQ basketball, and that's what happens when you have a star player on the court. It opens up a lot of scoring opportunities for the teammates and other people on the team.
All told, I tracked a whopping 15 shots created like this for teammates, which is a hard number to hit historically. For perspective, in the entire 2011 playoffs, the single game high I tracked was 14. So Jordan was a playmaking machine in this game, despite also dropping nearly 40.
That's crazy, though. He almost dropped 40, and he's getting double and triple teamed. That's crazy. And the fact that the Blazers was literally sending 2 people at Jordan, leaving somebody else wide open, begging for someone else to beat them, is crazy, bro. Ultimate sign of respect, bro.
Portland tried other defenders on Michael besides Drexler, but he took smaller players like Terry Porter or Danny Ainge to the post. And against bigger defenders, he was just too quick off the dribble, and that's one less big body to stop him at the rim.
Damn.
This was actually
Right at
a
his
theme
chest.
during Jordan's first 3 NBA Finals. The Lakers' starting two-guard Byron Scott was too small for him in the post, and he torched the Suns in '93 because they lacked agile wing defenders who could stay in front of them.
Hey.
Actually, that Phoenix series was a perfect storm because they had very little rim protection once Jordan shed his defender, and his finishing ability made him nearly unstoppable.
Damn. That's
He was
four people.
way too quick for Dan Marley, who lacked the foot speed to slide with him on the outside. And when the Suns tried a bigger forward like Richard Dumas, he was again unequipped to move with Michael on the perimeter.
Bro.
Tom Chambers is playing center here, and he's too deep under the hoop and barely
You
gets
gotta
above
help
9 feet
quicker
on his
than that. You gotta
contest
send help
because
faster
he's
than
not
that,
a
bro.
shot blocker. If Jordan blew by Dumas and Charles Barkley was at the rim, he offered even less resistance on these drives.
Damn.
When Phoenix went to a quicker defender like Kevin Johnson, MJ had a size advantage and took him right back to the post. In Game 4 of this series, Jordan scored 33 in the first half en route to 55 overall.
Damn,
and it wasn't just
55?
tactical mismatches, but more of his
This is the
spectacular
playoffs, too.
long-range shooting, although this time it was mostly from just inside the three-point line. In his greatest peaks profile, we saw a more physically gifted MJ. His first step was a touch quicker, his motor revved a little higher, but by 1992 he became a deadly outside shooter, putting on displays like this during critical playoff games.
Wow.
This is from the closeout game in the first round of 1992, and Jordan would just regularly stroke long jumper after long jumper like
shot.
this, and he did it while somehow maintaining great efficiency
Got
for
to
his
his spot,
time.
Cavs, right
Probably
at the
because
elbow.
this version of
Come
Michael
here.
was one of the
Triple threat,
greatest
come here.
mid-range shooters in league
Fade to the
history.
right. Good God.
One Real GM poster named
here. Pull
Dipper13
up.
tracked over 1,500 Jordan jumpers from 1990 to 1992 and had his mid-range accuracy at 51%, which sounds completely reasonable after watching him torture teams in these playoff runs.
So he made
Some of these shots are
half his
basically
shots?
works of art, and this was one of the best scoring displays I've ever seen, slicing up Miami in basically every phase of the game.
Damn.
The Knicks defended him well in 1992 and 93, even holding him to a 3 for 18 shooting game that year.
Oh, wow.
Only for MJ to go off in the very next game, dropping in 6 more threes in a 54-point outing to tie the series at 2 games apiece. So, even if Jordan lost a touch off his fastball by 1992 and 1993, he was still otherworldly, which brings us back to our original questions. How did the Bulls perform with him in the game? And what happened when Jordan went to the bench
Let's see what
during the
happened when he went to the bench.
1990s? In
Championship
1990,
heights.
Phil Jackson arrived and installed the triangle offense, which was mostly in full swing by the time Chicago hit the playoffs that year. The Bulls again
God,
bowed out to the
fade.
eventual champion Pistons in 7
Baseline
hard-fought games.
to the rim.
But in Jordan's
Damn.
playoff minutes that season, the Bulls outscored their opponents by over 7 points per 48,
Okay.
a jump into championship-level territory.
Okay.
In 2 seasons, Chicago had completely reshaped the roster around Jordan, with Charles Oakley, Sam Vincent, Dave Corzine, and Brad Sellers out, replaced by Bill Cartwright, Craig Hodges,
what
B.J.
is that,
Armstrong, and
y'all?
Sellers out,
What's up with his
replaced
jump
by
shot
Bill
form?
Cartwright, Craig
Ugh.
Hodges, B.J. Armstrong, and Stacey King, along with the emergence of their supporting stars, Horace Grant, and of course, Scottie Pippen. So in 1991, when the Bulls broke through, they were a whopping 13 and a half points better than their opponents.
They was whooping niggas on a nightly basis by 13 points with him on the court. Damn, so they just blowing teams out. That's crazy though. Look at over the years how they evolved as a team, bro. 1988, you know, it's just Jordan. You know, this is you know, semi-young Jordan. You know, all he want to do is score. You know, he didn't really have the pieces around him yet. He's on the court, they lose him by 4. He off the court, they lose him by 9. Next year, it increases. The year after that, it increases. 1991, now they blowing teams out because he got all the right pieces around him. He's starting to play team ball. Phil Jackson came in. This is when they start taking off right here.
With Jordan on the floor. And they still outscored their opponents even when he went to the bench. In 1992, they weren't as dominant with Jordan in the game, but without him, lineups often spearheaded by Pippen, the Bulls again outscored their opponents.
Wow, that's interesting. Now, that's how you know you got a championship team. When your star player can go to the bench and your bench players give you solid minutes, bro. They give you solid minutes. They don't let the lead go down or let the deficit go down even more. Keep the game right where it's at, or they even push it up higher. You know what I'm saying? Every now and then you'll have you a 6th, 7th man that'll come out hot off the bench. You know, you got to keep you some of those players on the team, man. And you got to have players that know they role, too. You know what I'm saying? Once everybody on the team know they role and stuff like that, bro, that's when stuff gets smooth.
In 93, the numbers were similar, although his teammates were outscored by a few points when he wasn't in the game. Remember,
92.
we wanted to eliminate some of the noise by tracking multiple seasons. So if we combine these seasons and look at multi-year stretches, we start to see a pattern.
Yeah.
As the years progress, the Bulls look better and better without Jordan, improving from a team with essentially no chance at a title to one that looks like a really good supporting cast in the playoffs. If we compare these numbers to larger minute stretches, Jordan's supporting cast went from the 0th percentile to the 37th percentile and ultimately into the top 25% of supporting players.
That's tough.
If we include the 94 Bulls, who played 10 full playoff games without Michael, we see a pretty steady rate of growth into the mid-90s without Jordan in the game. Now remember, these numbers are still a little sensitive to hot and cold stretches, and more importantly, this is really about Jordan's value on the Bulls specifically. Who was his backup, or how did they structure the lineups without him in the game? With that said, I wanted to see how Jordan and the Bulls compared to other high-minute players who made deep playoff runs over multiple seasons.
Nice team ball.
The horizontal axis is how good the team was when the player was on the court, and the vertical axis is how much the team improved with the player in the game. These are all the players who logged 1,500 playoff minutes and 500 minutes on the bench over multi-year stretches since 1997. The player with the largest change is David Robinson. The Spurs were 25 points better with him from 1998 to 2001. Although Robinson wasn't his team leader in minutes, so his lineups could have been more favorable for a stat like this. Among minute leaders, Shaq's Lakers were 21 points better with him in the playoffs from 2000 to 2004.
Makes sense.
And LeBron's teams were 19 points better from 2016 to 2021. Jordan's best stretch came from 1989 to 93, where the Bulls were 14 points better with him in the game. So this is a great number, but isn't quite as emphatic as Shaq's or even LeBron's. The Bulls' best stretch with Michael.
Oh, geez, what's up, man? What y'all got to say about that, though? What y'all got to say about that, OGs?
On the floor includes that second three-peat, where from 1991 to 96, they were nearly 9 points better than the competition, short of Curry's monstrous plus 12, but still one of the best stretches on record. The 96 Bulls went an incredible 87-13, a record that still stands to this day, although the 1991 team was actually slightly better with Jordan on the floor during the playoffs. For those final three championships, Michael was older and less explosive, although he was stronger and craftier than ever. That strength let him operate out of the post, commanding double teams that freed up his teammates, and he could overpower defenders down there, and then, instead of an acrobatic finish, kick it out to a wide open shooter.
Good pass.
Michael's size and body control really stand out in these years, feeling a defender on his back before spinning away to collapse the defense and set up a teammate.
Look at that dime, though.
And even though he lost some of that quickness, he could still stop on a dime to create space. And despite all the jukes and spins, he just seemed to be in total control of his body at all times.
Finger roll.
This was never more apparent than in the evolution of his fadeaway, where he couldn't always out-jump his defender, so he had to alter his shot in the air.
Nah, that's a
This meant
crazy
changing the
fade
angle
right
of his
there.
body and the arc of the jumper, looping it over a
Look at the
nearby
footwork,
hand.
Look at the pump fake.
He also used the pump fake more to create a little
my
extra
God.
breathing room to fire. And he could do all this while reclining his body at
Nah, he a
extreme
mid-range.
angles while he was
bro.
in the air.
Damn,
This is like a pool extreme
at a
angles
47-degree
while he
angle
was in the
there.
air.
Damn.
This is like a pool shark learning all the tricks and bounces of the table.
Nah,
His
he
mind
mastered
adapting
the
in real
mid-range,
time to
bro.
lean back a little more
Footwork.
or aim the shot just a
Shot
little
technique,
higher.
everything, bro.
His defense was also really impressive in those final Chicago seasons, using his strength and anticipation to contain the ball and maintaining a relatively high motor on that end despite being longer in the tooth.
Feet, yeah.
His hands were as destructive
Active
as
hands,
ever,
yeah.
and he actually gambled less during those
Come
second
here.
three-peat years compared to his more chaotic style when he was younger. And even that risk-taking was often calculated and precise. As a result,
Bang
he
out.
actually put up some of the more impressive plus-minus numbers in his playoff career, where the Bulls were outscored by 3 points without him during the 96 playoffs,
Okay.
but then crushed teams by 13 points per 48 with Jordan on the floor. The NBA officially started tracking plus-minus in 1997, and he looks great there too, as well as in 1998.
Nah, that's
So,
crazy.
what can we make of all this? Well, despite the noise in plus-minus stats, I find these numbers incredibly important for a few reasons. First, they affirm that Jordan's supporting cast radically improved during their title-winning seasons, not necessarily Michael himself.
Right.
As we discussed in his Greatest Peaks profile, MJ looked superhuman before Chicago won a title. He just needed the right teammates to climb the mountain with.
Right.
Second, both of the three Bulls looked great
come here.
when Jordan was on the floor, with their second 3-year run falling just behind Steph Curry's Warriors during the Kevin Durant years. And finally, Jordan does not actually look like an outlier compared to other greats when he was on the court versus off it. His teams were plenty competitive without him, and when he was in the game, other all-time clubs were comparably dominant. Of course, there's enough variability in these numbers that the best player ever isn't guaranteed to have the best on-off ever, so the debate will certainly rage on. But I'll leave you with this. After pouring through over 100 playoff games of Jordan and the Bulls, it's hard to find a more consistently impressive decade of playoff performances in the entire history of the NBA, and the numbers certainly back that up.
Great video right there, man. This video right here highlighted Jordan's teammates. Now, I'm going to be honest, I did not know his teammates were that good when he was off the floor. I did not know that. Obviously, I knew he had Kukos, Steve Kerr, Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen, Ron Harper, et cetera, et cetera. I knew he had key pieces on that team, but I did not know they was playing that well with him off the court. I didn't know that. I thought, Jordan was just, carrying and, doing the things that he did. But he honestly had a great supporting cast. You know what I'm saying? And as you can see over the years, they put a team around him. They gave him a coach. They gave him the right system that'll fit MJ, and he took it and he ran with it. You know what I'm saying? At first, everybody knew once Jordan came into the league that he was a superhuman. You know what I'm saying? He could do everything on the goddamn court. You know what I'm saying? But he couldn't do it all by himself. You know what I'm saying? He needed the right teammates. He needed the right coaching staff, coach. You know what I'm saying? And, yeah, bro, it took a few years to, get it together. But as you saw, Jordan started to trust his teammates a little bit more. Teams started to double him, triple team him. And he'd get by the first defender. They'll send help. He'll kick it out to his teammate, knock down Trey. You know what I'm saying, man? So the game started to, get a lot smoother over the years because of his supporting cast, bro. My boy Jordan had some shooters on his team, bro. He had a lot of shooters on his team. He had a lot of hoopers on his team, man. And they just glued. But yeah, bro, I did not know his supporting cast was hooping like that, though. Jordan would go to the bench and they still killing teams. You know what I'm saying? So that's dope to see, man. That's dope to know. I didn't know that. So Shout out to bro who made the vid. If y'all like the reaction, man, hit the like button. Comment down below any videos y'all want me to react to next. And last but not least, subscribe. Young Groovy signing out. I'm going to catch y'all in the next one.